Hi, this is Mike Oppenheim, and you are listening to Coffin Talk, Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. And today is another one of my favorite types of shows. We're doing an international episode. I am on live with Dave Gerow he's from America, but he's living in Guatemala. And, of course, you're going to find out why he's there and what he's doing. And you're also going to discover one of the most interesting men I have ever met in my entire life. I cannot recall a person who has inspired me more to believe that you really don't need anything except your own mind to succeed in this world and to get very far and to become what I would call a genius of the jack of all trades. So with no further delays, Dave, how are you?
I'm good, man. It's really good to talk to you again.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. We met in 2006, maybe 4 or 5, actually. I don't even remember. But I was slinging coffee at a restaurant that we've spoken about a million times on the show called Eugenio's. And you were like this guy who came in the second we opened and always got like a cup of black coffee. And I don't remember ever not hitting it off.
I mean, it might not have been the first time we talked, but within the first few times, we were talking some pretty deep stuff.
Yeah, no, and it was incredible. And I've alluded to your many talents. I know you are a very, very successful pianist to the point where I believe you've performed many times on television, including The Tonight Show. I mean, I've heard you play every instrument. You're prodigious, to say the least. Let's jump back to the days before Portland. So where'd you grow up?
Oh, I was born in Flint, Michigan, and lived there until 1992. That's when I got married. And my wife and I moved to Nashville, and I was there for 3.5 years and then moved back to Flint, probably about 7 more years. And then I moved to Portland, Oregon for 12 years.
You were married and you were living in Nashville. That's the part of your career that I was trying to talk about, right? When you were really like performing a lot, playing piano. Is that correct?
Yes.
So who were you like playing with? Is it somebody that people would recognize?
Possibly. Clay Walker is probably the bigger name, and he's still going. I still see him all over the internet. And, when I was with him, even he had multiple #1 hits. I'm sure he continued to do that. And then Wade Hayes is the other guy of note who he's comparably, famous and made a similar mark for himself in country music. But we were best friends, Wade and I. Everyone in the band was. It was really fun.
Wow. I mean, it's so cool. So did you grow up liking country music, or were you just so talented that you're like, yeah, what the hell? I'll just play in this country band in Nashville.
I don't know if I liked it or I was just so used to it. It was ubiquitous growing up. My mom and my aunts all listened to it along with 50s, 60s, oldies rock and roll.
And what age did you first touch an instrument and start playing?
Okay, well, since you worded it that way, not when did you learn? When I was like 8 or 9, something like that, my mom somehow came into this tiny, cheap plastic chord organ, and she wasn't particularly musically inclined, but she liked to sing, and she managed to peck out the melody to "Nearer, My God, to Thee," the gospel tune on that organ. And she showed it to me. So that's my first memory of ever producing music with my hands. But it didn't really take then. Like that wasn't the start of things. That was just an isolated incident. And then like a year later, when I was 9 or 10, something like that, she ended up with a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and again just sort of pecked out. It's just a boogie woogie bass line, boom, 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 boom. And she showed me that. And that was another isolated incident. So there was like that chord organ thing and the guitar thing. I had these 2 tiny pieces of music. And then I kept telling her I wanted to play the trumpet. She said, well, why don't you play drums? And then, 11 years old in the 6th grade, I went into school band in the percussion section.
Very cool. Would you define your childhood as like a happy childhood?
The short answer is no. But it's not as simple as that because I sort of escaped into my own head. I received a lot of abuse and, I mean, it's neglect as well, of course. But it was really, really bad. And I feel like music is that's what I wrapped my arms around it like in a storm, to not blow away into insanity. And I just never stopped. It's all I've ever done, apart from having to take on, this quickie job for some reason, gas station or something like that.
I mean, that's one of the most impressive things about you to me is that, like, you're ethically resourceful. You figure out how to get by and how to get through, and your focus is always on, like, not wronging other people, but also, like, trying to achieve what it is that you want. And I watched you do this in person for like 4 years and succeed, and then I've watched you from afar via Facebook doing it, and like, here you are in Guatemala and we're on the phone talking, but you're actually calling from a laptop. I'm curious if you had a spiritual philosophy at a young age.
I certainly didn't have any kind of, God's going to save me from anything feeling. I was numb with trauma, just absolutely. There was no thinking. I was on autopilot until my mom died at age 50, or I was 50. She was in her 70s. And the only God stuff that I ever got started when my mom married this guy who was real active in the church. He played the organ, and he also played guitar. So when she met up with him, whatever he thought, I was eager to adopt. I was like, finally a role model. He turned out to be a very bad role model, but it wasn't a great time. Today, I claim atheism, but with a big old asterisk. A couple of years ago, I discovered Christopher Hitchens, and every freaking word that came out of his mouth, it was as if I wrote it. Not to say I speak as eloquently as he does, but the thoughts, not the words. His views. It was exactly how I felt. I didn't know I felt that way until I heard someone say it. But atheism, if you say I'm an atheist, go to the dictionary definition of the word. You break it down into the a prefix and the the and the ist, and you break it all down. It's like atheist, not believing in a God, in which that covers everything, like all the poly gods and all that, Zeus, and But really, when you say atheist, you're referring to the Christian God, the Judeo-Christian, Muslim, Allah, the creation story. That's really what we're talking about. So I do use the term atheist because I do not believe that. But a more accurate way to say it is agnostic. But everybody's agnostic because no one knows anything. So I don't like that word. It just doesn't do much. So I use atheist, but there was no pro-God or anti-God until I was an adult. And I didn't really experience any death until I was 16 when my grandpa died.
So answer this question in the present tense. What do you think will happen to you when you die?
Well, I'm unprepared really for that in terms of, I don't know what I'm talking about, right? These are strictly personal, thoughts and from my very specific perspective, just to make that clear, I'm not claiming to know anything. In fact, I'm claiming to know nothing. All we are is energy. We're just this buzzing group of, all that biology stuff, right? So when you die, whatever the operative part of you is goes somewhere and your body decays, right? Well, energy doesn't just disappear. I mean, I'm no scientist or anything like that, but that's obvious. It doesn't disappear. It goes somewhere. So I don't think death is just Xing you out. But I don't know. Something happens. Maybe your spirit, your soul, or whatever it is, maybe it's like dispersed back into the universe or something, stardust, or maybe it's reincarnation or something like that. I've always thought that there was something to reincarnation. It just made sense to me somehow, although I couldn't quite tell you why. Dude, I believe in so few things that I feel guilty.
What would you say are the few things you believe in?
I believe that music can control, manipulate, not in any bad way, but I mean, like, music has serious influence over thoughts and actions of people beyond their knowing about it. I do believe that. And that's only because I've experienced it firsthand on both ends for so long, you know.
Well, yeah, let me just interrupt and say that I have seen you perform too many times to count, and you're a rock star. You really are. Like, it's just crazy. I mean, I've seen you perform, and it's psychotic how much energy, like what you're describing. I've seen you do it, and I've seen you like puppeteer it. I've seen you like raise the mandolin and like go to the left side of the stage, and then I have just, and you have like this engaged look in your eyes that a lot of people are great at music, and a lot of people are great at writing songs, a lot of people are great at like different components of it, but like you just have that thing where the people with you in the band are like supporting you even if you're not the lead. If people did want to hear like Sneaking Out or any of your other performances, are you on the internet that way?
Yeah, YouTube's full of Sneaking Out videos. Lots of people. And then I have a YouTube channel where I put up a bunch of them. David Gerow Music Channel.
Okay, so I want to ask you like a lot of quick questions, and then I want to come all the way back and do more philosophy, because I think you're, like I said, I truly think your brain, at least when it comes to music and a few other things, is on that like level that we use the word genius. So, true or false? Did you teach yourself Russian?
Well, I'm still studying it, but yeah, it's independent.
Okay, true or false? 15 years ago, a guy from Russia came into a coffee shop and started speaking Russian, and you turned around and spoke in fluent Russian to him, and his eyes went completely wide, and he said, "How did you learn this?" And you said, "I picked it up," and he couldn't believe it.
Well, I mean, it definitely wasn't fluent Russian, to be clear. But at one time I was studying 5 languages simultaneously: Spanish, Italian, French, German, and Russian. It started in high school. And I would go like on a like study hall type period, you know. I would go to the library, and that's back when they had record players and these big box set type packagings of language records. So I would take down all the languages. I take down the records in Spanish, French, German, Italian at that time, and sat down with the record player, put the headphones on, and would copy from the booklets that came with the records the conversational stuff like, you know, how are you? What time is it? I love you. I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. Where's the library? You know what I mean? In every language. I like the puzzle of language, the game of it.
That's cool. And do you think that having a musical ear undoubtedly helps with the language, or do you think they're actually just even the same thing?
Well, I've never seen the connection, even though I understand what people say the connection is. Okay. I don't connect them except to say that music is clearly a language. But no, I don't really have anything to say on that, because to me, there's languages and there's music, and I just love them both. But it's super common for musicians to be good at picking up languages.
Yeah, I was teaching myself Thai for a long time because I was, talking to my son and hoping that he would respect me for that. But it's so much harder than I would ever think to speak Thai. And then in Spanish, it's also kind of similar. I feel like I'm making fun of them when I do the accent right, because to do it right, I'm using the part of me that is called mimicry.
Well, I have the same problem. You do the trilled R's and you make the vowels pure, and you say, okay, that's all I can do, you know. But little by little, I've been told by Guatemalans by some Guatemalans that I sound like a native, and I've been told by others that they can't understand a word I'm saying.
That's great.
Which is not enough for me. I mean, I'm down here. I came down to master it, you know.
Yeah. Did you move down there with someone or to meet someone, or did you go down just like naked and you didn't know anyone?
Actually, this is all because of a very good friend of mine named Julian Root. When we first met, we were in a band together called the Hill Williams. He came to Portland and took the place of Matt Franson, who was playing banjo with the Hill Williams, and I was playing fiddle. Julian stepped in. Actually, the leader of the band told me, he said, "Yeah, we got the new banjo player coming today." I said, "Oh, what's up?" And he said, "Well, he's only going to be with us for a couple months because he's moving to Guatemala." And as soon as he said those words, I had like, it wasn't a visual, but I call it a vision. I'd never even met the guy. So he gets to rehearsal. It's like, Dave, Julian, Dave. He's like, shake hands, like, how you doing? We pull out the instruments, start tuning up, and it's time to start rehearsal. And the leader of the band, he's counting in the first tune. He's like, hey, let's run this song. 2, 1, 2. Before the count in was over, I said, because we had been talking about his Guatemala trip prior. the count into the song is happening, and I'm like, dude, I'm going to go with you. We'll talk about it after rehearsal. He's like, okay. We'd known each other 15 minutes.
Part of why it's cool is because I have like a list of like little notes of questions I want to ask you, and it's not from before the interview, it's as we talk. One of the things on the list is just the word love, because something we have in common is I think we both fall hard when we feel love. And I don't mean like fall in love. I just mean that like we respect it and love it and won't be afraid and like shy away from it. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, this is a kind of difficult thing to talk about because I don't want to put a damper on the mood we've got going right here. And I don't want to come off dramatic or anything like that. But if we're going to tell the truth.
Hey everyone, if you're a fan of the show, please head over to mikeyop.com and click the subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and it's free. That's MIKEYOPP.com. Thanks.
The truth is, Mike, that over the last decade or so, I've become like just emotionally inaccessible.
Wow.
And that's not to say I don't love anybody or that no one loves me, but in terms of relationships, like, couples, finding the right guy or the right girl or how people do, I don't know what it would take for that to happen again, because I've got these locked doors that it all sounds so stupidly dramatic to say it out loud, but I don't know what it would take for me to find a relationship like that again. I don't know if I'd want to be with someone crazy enough to want to be with me.
What you were telling me is news to me, but the reason for it is what is news to me. You feeling that way is not new to me, because that makes sense. Like, and that's kind of what, I talked about your childhood a little bit. Like, you've been hurt a lot, many times. And, I think when people get hurt, they have different coping strategies. And I know you've had different strategies that do and don't work throughout your life. I was hopeful that when you moved to Guatemala, great things were in store for you in that department. Have you had opportunities that you just shook your head and said, nah, or have you not even had opportunities?
I just don't see them. It's not that I'm not looking. It's just a non-starter. Don't mistake that for, not wanting physical relations or anything like that. I'm talking about the deep stuff, soulmate stuff. Every relationship I've ever had, every boyfriend, and for that matter, every girlfriend, while it was going on, especially the first 2 or 3 months, when you're chemically in love, biologically in love, it was always just the best. I'm not living this way because it's like, what sounds fun? Poverty. But there is something about making more out of less down here that hits me right in the center, just like makeshift and recycling, not in the bottles and cans sense, but repurposing, duct tape goes a long way, etc. You don't just go out and buy a new iPhone because your screen cracked.
See, this is why I miss you and respect you so much, is that it's so hard to participate in the culture you and I both are from in America when you have awareness of like how it's easier the less you have, but it's also not easier.
Well, it depends on what you mean. Like, it depends on what it is, right? Like what is easier is gathering what it is that you need because you've reduced it to so little. What's not easier is the slow time. When you've got all your stuff, you got a house that's stocked with food and, your bills are paid, a month ahead or whatever, and it's like you hit a slow time, you lose your job or business is slow or something like that. You've got a cushion and you're pretty sure that it's just temporary and you don't sweat it. But down here, it's like every one of those times when things get hard, it's really hard not to go, God, what if it doesn't pick back up? That does happen to me anyway. I can't speak for anyone else. Also, I hope you didn't take anything that I've said so far to mean that I'm not happy. I've never been happy before. I've been happy-ish and I've been in good, you get good moods and yada da. I'm finally happy. And it's, it's uncomfortable as hell sometimes. Not the happiness, the living situation.
Yeah, that was confusing. Thank you. So hold on, can you give a pointer to our audience as to like how it is that you finally found happiness?
Well, it kind of just happened to me. It's not anything clever on my part. This story, I'm not sure how to tell it. Okay, I told you about, all the years of abuse and the abuse, the psychological abuse continued until my mom died. Of course, the physical abuse stopped as soon as I could stop her, but she died about 4 years ago. And when I got the news, I was prepared to start drinking and get good and drunk and do what you're supposed to do, boo-hoo and all that, right? And I drank a few beers, and at the time I was a heavy drinker. I mean, absolutely alcoholic level, but functional. And so I sat down, I started drinking by myself, thinking, let's do this. And I just couldn't drink. I couldn't finish a beer. And I was like, wow, this is weird. 3 days of that I did every day. I tried to get drunk, and I just didn't taste the same. I didn't want the change of headspace. And I was like, what the And this 3 days after my mom died, I hear in my right ear, like a human being, like a human child, whispering in my ear, and I can't express that enough. The voice said, "The boogeyman is gone." And it was a child's voice, and I'm assuming it was me as a child. And the boogeyman was my mom. And then I realized I have spent my whole life running and hiding and protecting myself from my mother. And as soon as that little boy voice said, "The boogeyman is gone," I did cry. And everything changed. It's like coming out of a 50-year coma. I came out of it, and I'm like, I'm this experienced, at least decent musician. I've got a resume that makes me proud. I've got these, I'm in Guatemala. I'm like, what am I? It was like waking up to it, and I'm experiencing life really for the first time, little by little, just over the last 4 years. I don't know how to explain it except to say I'm finally alive. I'm not hiding. I'm not protecting myself. I woke up and it was like, oh, there was a mess to clean up as well. I've hurt a lot of people, and I've borrowed money from people that I have every intention of paying it all back, but there's no hope for it given my current situation. So it'd have to be later down the road. But as I tried to tell people this story, like, hey, I'm good now. I'm healthy. I'm happy, and no one wants to hear it. It's really mostly just money. I'll use this opportunity to publicly apologize. I am sorry for all that, but I would like to think that the people who love me and care about me will celebrate this with me and say, I know what you mean. My playing is better than ever. I'm in the best shape of my life at 54. I'm down to 174 pounds.
Nice. I want to do two things. I want to finish wrapping up a couple of the loose ends from this podcast, and then I want to kind of get into like a really deep personal conversation with you, and I'm going to really ask you some like very personal questions on my behalf, and I might be too scared once I ask them to put it out there. So
okay,
because this is why I miss you so much, Dave, is like I feel like you're a big brother, and I met you, and I had just moved to Portland, and I didn't know a lot of people, and I was suffering from, now that I'm, in my 40s, like stupid 20-something, but at the time it felt so real, and you were always there to kind of guide me, and you said it first, so I'm going to say it, like, you're also the only, like, truly functional alcoholic I've ever known, and it's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. I cannot understand how a person as gifted and talented as you could get away with it all, and then at the same time, as soon as you told me about your mom and your childhood, it more than made sense. And that to me is part of why I wanted to have you on, is I just think anyone listening to this who has like issues from their childhood, I think there's a lot of hope in hearing someone say, hey, it took until I was 50 and I didn't even do anything. It just happened to me. Because I hear that a lot. I hear that from a lot of people.
Let me add this to that, because this is important. It's important to me that anyone who's listening to this and finds this story interesting, that they also know never one time, and I'm not exaggerating, never once, my whole life, my whole childhood, young adulthood, up to 50 years old, did I ever wish my mom would die. It never crossed my mind, man, if only she were dead, my life would be better. Never crossed my mind. And then when she did, and all that, the boogeyman stuff, like that, and I realized, I was like, holy crap, I've been fighting for my mom all these years.
We've known each other a long time. I met you when I was 24, I believe, and so I'm 41 now. Back when I met you, I was a young, ambitious musician trying to make it in music, and then really shortly after that I switched to writing, and so I've been writing since 2006, and you've known me as a writer as well as a musician, because I didn't quit playing music or anything. Anyway, my life has meandered. I've done a lot. I've published novels, and I've done all these things. And when you said the statement, I'm proud of my resume, I'm proud of my resume, but I don't feel successful. And I want you to analyze that and help me with that.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, the S word, success. It's, again, that word, it's got connotations now that don't even really apply. Like you say success, everyone sees a dollar sign. He made $1 million. Oh, he succeeded. Well, he succeeded in making $1 million. If you don't have a passion, if you don't have something that you're looking forward to, literally, like looking ahead and seeing it and moving towards it, success can't happen. You can't succeed at nothing. For me, I decided as a kid. I mean, I remember telling myself, it's like, I want this music thing, and as long as that's coming, the rest belongs to everybody else. They can split it up, divide it however they want. As long as the music's happening, I'm fine. And that was my purpose. That was like, okay, that's the boat I'm in, and the rest is like, whatever, clothes, cars, boyfriend, girlfriend, cheap food, got to eat bologna sandwiches and ramen noodles. Nope. Who cares? The music's happening. And I made a deal with the muse, if that's not too pretentious. I told the muse if she would just keep it coming, that I would never say no. I would never say no. I don't want to play that. I don't want to play with that person. I don't want to play that song. I don't want to do this. As long as it kept coming, the muse could count on me as a vehicle.
Dude, you just saved me thousands of dollars in therapy, and I am grinning ear to ear. This is why I knew if I asked you, you would. I have asked that question to a lot of people, but I've phrased it differently, and I've set it up differently, and I've tried all these different ways, but I just knew when I told you, you would get it, and you did, and now I get it. And I am getting the gift from the muse over and over again. I feel a lightness. This is incredible. Because I went to a writing program, a graduate school, and they told us, like, straight up, you want to make money doing this, you have to do X, Y, and Z. You have to, like, post on social media. You have to have an account. You have to, like, all these, like, rules. And you know me, I hate rules, and I hate authority, and I hate doing what other people do. So I've like never stopped writing, never stopped producing, never stopped publishing, never stopped making music, like all of my things, it doesn't matter. But I never got over the fact that they convinced me that success is monetarily tied in.
To respond to what you just said, because this is important too, I think. If you're going to be a writer, you need this, that, and the other, and social media, and this and that. You just went through the list. It's like, well, don't you just need a pen? You know what I'm saying? It's like the same way with the music. It's like people are like, dude, you gotta. In fact, it's the same list that you rattled off, right? People confuse music with the music business. And I'm like, no, don't talk to me about the music business. It's not been my friend. It's not about music. It's about product. And music happens to be the product. I read a Todd Rundgren interview. He said two things that really that I cling to when I feel I need some inspiration. One was, it's an artist's responsibility to make a public act of self-observation. That summed it up for me. I totally got it. And then the other thing was, he talked about, prior to technology, music was a service, not a product. You hire musicians the way you hire a freaking plumber, and you're paid because, wow, well, I can't do that. Will you please do that? And I'll pay you. Where with the product, CDs and records and posters and T-shirts and all that stuff, it's susceptible to the BS of commerce and all that crap. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't believe how well you've helped me with something, and now it's funny because I had an inkling of what we were talking about, but now I get it. Right. To replace music with writing, to make it your case, Mike, you're going to need this and Facebook and all this stuff. It's like, no, I just need my pen and paper or my computer, whatever. And this ties in with something that my new hero right now is Buckethead. I don't know if you know who that is. Of course I do. I saw him perform with Guns N' Roses, actually. Yeah. I just discovered him a few months ago, and I can say this with 100% confidence. He is absolutely 100% unquestionably my all-time hero. And I don't just mean musically, I mean as a person. There's a video on YouTube, it's just audio, but it's him and being interviewed by his shrink. Bucket says, yeah, it's hard for me to keep my energy going and the flow and everything. There's people talking in the audience, and they seem like they're not into me, and it affects my playing. And what he learned from his shrink was that you don't get on stage and ask the audience for anything. You're doing the offering. You're there to give to them. And if it works right, they give back, but you're not asking for it.
It doesn't affect you at all. That helped me a lot. You know, I use that on stage in my own mind.
That helps so much. Dave, I can't even... My predictions for how fun this was going to be and how excellent it was going to be were not off at all. I miss you. I love you. This has been so special for me. I just can't thank you enough. And as we used to say all the time on the episode, thank you so much for helping us put another nail in the coffin. And normally I would plug my website and all that stuff, but I actually just want to let Dave take us out. So Dave, I don't care how you do it, but what's one last thing you just want to say to this audience?
Have a good time all the time.
That's awesome. So there you have it, everyone. Have a good time all the time. And remember, music is not the same thing as the music business. I'm Mike Oppenheim, and we will see you soon.
The moon, and then I see that you see me, and I see you hear this tune, and I feel that you're near me, and I sing, you are my moon.